This is Wayne W. Johnson from Night of Something Strange, Tales of Dracula, and Star Trek New Voyages Phase 2 / The Federation Files. And you're listening to the Horror Squad podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast, episode number 294. Tonight, we're talking about 2002, Danny Boyle directed, 28 Days Later. I'm one of your co-hosts, Todd. We have Steve. We are Joe-less tonight. Steve, what's going on?
Not too much. I'm actually at Halloween Horror Nights the day this is going out, so can't wait. I can't wait to talk about it. It'll obviously be next week when I get back, but I think it's going to be a super fun trip, and I'm really looking forward to it. Going to see Exorcist Believer, going to see a Chucky House, going to see Stranger Things season 4, and a bunch of others. So really psyched this year. I think it's way better than last year, at least lineup wise, and going to be a good time.
What house are you looking forward to the most?
Stranger Things is going to be cool because I think Vecna's lair is going to be really cool. I'm really curious about Exorcist, but I haven't seen it, right? So I don't know if I'll be as attached to it because I don't know the movie yet. It's only coming out in October, so that's kind of like a sneak peek into that movie. And The Last of Us, I think I'm really looking forward to as well because that's a really cool property. And if they do, was it Clickers in that one? Yeah, Clickers in that one. It could be really fucking cool. I just forget if it's Clickers or Tickers. I think Tickers is Gears of War and Clickers is Last of Us.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have a good time and you don't get sick, like you just
fucking
get
shit.
over sick.
Especially
you're still dealing with
Florida is apparently goddamn leprosy and shit that's over there. I've heard what the fuck. Anyway,
we'll see. It's nuts. So I don't even know what you can do. Sanitize your hands, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, stay away from people as much as I can.
Which you can't because you'll be in a 4,000 deep line.
Exactly.
Hopefully you have a good time.
Yeah, I probably will. And just shout out to Joe. The reason he's missing this episode is because he's doing meetings for our event. Yeah, it's crazy. He's actually doing in-person meetings today to talk logistics and stuff. So big shout out to him. The reason we get these events is really because of him. So
yeah, shout out to Joe, man. He's literally the boots on the ground and in the email and
oh my God.
on mostly video. So
right?
Yeah, he does it all. And he, it's a full-time job and everything. So yeah, if you guys don't know, this is 100% profit free from us. Any money we make goes right back into the show. Yeah, we're negative at this point, but hey,
we're negative. Yeah, exactly.
But speaking of Exorcist, from the Exorcist house you're gonna go see, I was at Kroger, which is a grocery store around here, and I was wearing a Nightmare on Elm Street shirt. And a Kroger guy stopped me. He's like, "Hey man, cool shirt." And we got to talking. He opened up his apron and he had a Halloween shirt on. I'm like, "Oh, cool." And we were talking about some movies, and he's like, "Yeah, my favorite's The Exorcist." And he's like, "I'm really excited for the new Exorcist, but I'm worried about the dudes that made it fucking up Halloween." I'm like, "Dude." We just connected.
Right.
Halloween, we agreed that, Halloween 2018 was pretty cool. And then 2 was, and then 3 was, oh my God.
Right.
So shout out to the unknown Kroger guy that had a Halloween shirt hidden underneath his uniform.
Nice.
Looking forward to the new Exorcist movie. Hopefully it doesn't disappoint you. And I think every single one of us is a little weary about it. So I don't know. We'll see in about a month and some change. So
yeah, not too far from now. It's in this a good season at least. We got a lot going on in the next 2 months. We got The Nun 2 going on. We got Saw X. We got The Exorcist, and it's going to be a pretty exciting fall season, which is great because my top 10 list is still not the best. It's getting there. I'm slowly building it up, but it's not at the level it should be.
Yeah, I'm honestly probably looking forward to Saw X the most. I should have rewatched the series beforehand because I love that series, but we'll see. But I'm more excited too for movies that aren't new. I'm seeing They Live, The Thing. No. They Live. What else am I saying? They Live, The Exorcist are going to be in theaters, and another John Carpenter film. Christine.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I see They Live 1 week, Christine 1 week, and then take a couple week break, and then October I go see Exorcist, I'm fucking thrilled. I've never seen any of those movies in theater, so I'm pumped.
That's really awesome. Yeah, that's a great lineup right there. So
yeah, heck yeah. For cool. People that want to see them, check out Fathom Events. Usually they host really good stuff in the US at least. You probably have something similar up there, right?
Not really. No, we have on Sundays or some shit. They they are older movies, but it's not often that it's a horror film. It's a
Yeah.
cool. Sometimes I got stuff like Jurassic Park, which I got to see again since I saw it in '93 in theaters, but I saw it again. That was cool. And, time to time you'll get something cool. Like we got the 3 Dead films for that one time, but it's pretty rare, unfortunately. So,
Bummer.
but you can rent the theater for like not that much money, considering if you get 10 people together, it would cost pretty much the same as a regular movie. So
About $100.
yeah, it's 200, but movies here are almost 20. So
Oh my gosh,
it's,
dude, that's insane.
I know it's fucking ridiculous. Hopefully one day I get a group big enough to just pay 20 bucks in each and watch one of the classics.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Well, shortened show tonight.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
watched?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a super shortened show because we're actually recording this like 2 or 3 weeks before the episode releases because I'll be in Florida when this happens, and we just thought it'd be easier. So the two guys get a week off, which is great, and then come back strong for the big season of Halloween.
Yeah, you know what? We shouted out Joe for his efforts to the events. Let's shout out Steve, the magic of editing, filming or recording this on a 3 p.m. the day after we already recorded our Wes Craven last night. And you guys won't even tell the difference except that we told you. So there you go. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just saying in case we say something that like contradicts what we talked about for some reason. Like the event might have been announced already, to the listeners, but right now we can't. So who knows?
Oh, that's true.
Stuff like that.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's get to Somewhat Watch because I'm excited to talk about this one. I have been on a 2023 kick, and I've talked pretty much only 2023 films in the last little while, but I had to break that tradition because there's one movie that Todd told me about, which is now weeks ago for this episode release, but actually a week ago for the recording. So I finally checked out Burial Grounds, which is an Italian film from the early 1980s. Very simple premise. It's just a group of people who are in an Italian villa, and all of a sudden the I guess apocalypse happens while they're there, and a bunch of zombies start attacking that villa. So there's not too much to the story, but plot twist, for some reason they have this mother and child in there, and by child I mean a fucking 40-year-old looking guy in a 10-year-old's body. It's like fucking Benjamin Button up in there. The creepiest fucking kid you've ever seen in your life. And really, like, I don't even know why they made that choice. I mean, maybe because he's such a creepy fucker and the way that they wrote it is absolutely disgusting. So I know Todd talked about it when he did this watch, but I'm just going to reiterate just how fucking creepy this kid is for really no reason. In the middle of their zombie attack, he like goes to his mother, perfectly normal reaction. He's scared. There's zombies. I get it, and he starts kind of like hugging her and just being super afraid. But then he leans in for a kiss and she doesn't stop him. So what does a kid do? I don't know. But according to this director, his next move is like, well, she's accepting my kiss, so I think I'm going to try to finger bang her. And she lets it go way too far. Like, it doesn't go, thankfully, to where they thought it should be, but damn, it was super uncomfortable. Now, thank God it's played by a 26-year-old who's playing a 10-year-old for whatever reason. But it's such a creepy scene, and there's no reason for it. None. This is absolutely out of nowhere. Had I not known, I would have just fell out of my chair like, what the fuck just happened? But I was kind of warned about it, so I was expecting something creepy to happen. The only thing I can think of is later in the film, spoiler alert, the creepy kid does die. And she's like, the mom is devastated, of course. So they keep going with the zombie thing, but he does reanimate. And she's so happy that he reanimates that her reaction, again, for whatever reason, is I'm going to let him suck on my tits. And then he bites off the tit. So was that whole thing just so we could get a gore shot of him like biting off a nipple? I don't know, man. It's a fucking weird movie, but I will say I enjoyed it overall, despite how weird it was, because the zombies look really cool. I like the zombie attack. There's some thrilling scenes. I was never really bored, but that is one of the weirdest film decisions I think I've ever seen. It makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you liked it because the creepy dude is the absolute worst. I'm glad you liked it, man, and I'm glad you watched it because I want everyone to watch this just for the shock value of this kid and this man that's played by a little person who had like 3, 4 movies and then disappeared. And then I was like happy to see that there's a little featurette on the Blu-ray from Severin called Peter Still Lives, and they have the actor come to a convention in Italy. And it's, man, I had trouble even watching this interview because I don't know if it's an Italian culture thing or I just didn't understand the humor with it, or I don't know, man. But they bring up him on stage, everyone's clapping, whatever, blah blah blah. Mind you, he still looks the same. It's off-putting. They have the MC, and then they have a quote unquote resident zombie expert who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. It's very weird. But the first thing this actor does, the guy that plays Peter, the 12-year-old man child, and he goes to the crowd and says, "Are there any women's breasts I can suck or bite or something like that?" I'm like, what? Like,
What?
this is your open? But the crowd fucking goes wild, right? But the worst part of it is they immediately after that, they stop clapping, they open up to a Q&A, and not one Italian man, not two, but three ask a boob related question about the boob that he bit. What did her boob taste like? Did the boob taste salty? Did the boob have milk on it? I'm like, what are fucking
What
we
the
doing?
fuck?
I'm like, I guess this is humorous, but the guys were responding in a serious manner. Like it wasn't like ha 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 ha. They were like really serious about it and they wanted his answers. I'm like, whoa, this is fucking strange, man. So not only is his performance super fucking weird, but when he comes out of retirement for this this Blu-ray convention interview in Italy, he's still fucking weird. I man, please, if you can find Barrel Ground, aka what, Night of Terror, I think.
Yeah, something like that, or
Check it
whatever
out
Italian name
because
it's called.
yeah, this fucking kid is amazing. And my favorite scene of all the weird scenes with him, my favorite one is when they zoom into his face when he's sleeping. His eyes burst open. He's creepy as hell.
I saw memes of that. It's so funny. The kid is so fucking creepy, and even when he's doing nothing, he's creepy. He's just creepy looking. You know, it's
I can't look but anywhere but him.
right.
Whenever he's on the camera, I'm like, what is that little fucker doing?
Yeah, it's such. I still don't understand what they were thinking with those scenes. Like, is that
I don't
a
know.
popular thing back then? Is that like a
Breastfeeding a
fantasy?
12-year-old? I don't know, a 10-year-old, 12-year-old?
Yeah, but and anyway, I guess they
But
made him old because what he's doing is like, you know, you can't do that with kids, thankfully. But it's also really like you could have just cut that and had a real kid. You know, I don't know. It's
you could have just had a zombie bite a boob off without
yeah,
the context.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That could have happened.
And it's also weird too, because it's not like a fast scene where he just goes up and grabs it. It's like like he's
Oh
moving
yeah.
into the boob slow, and then the nipple is fucking pulled out, and then he fucking caresses it. And then to make it even creepier, she's like, remember this? You used to love to suckle my breast." I'm like, he's fucking 10.
I know. It's
Stop.
it's so gross. And that whole scene is just fucking gross.
It's a cool gore effect though.
It is a cool gore effect. I'll get that. And the whole movie has like gore effects. Like we have to remember, there's still a lot of cool zombie movie stuff in
Yeah.
this. I like the way the zombies look. They're so like slimy and
Yeah.
gross. Very much reminiscent of other Italian zombie films. Zombie, for example.
Yeah.
You know, the just the one with the maggots in his eye. Like you have a very similar zombie in this, and I dig the aesthetic. It was just it's overshadowed by that fucking kid and those two scenes. It's like a 2 hour movie, or what is it, hour 40 minutes, I think, and you have like a 3 minute period that overtakes the whole movie because it's so out there.
Creepy Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. And my second watch for this week is a 2023 film. I watched this one over on Tubi, and it's called Craving. So Craving is a movie about a group of heroin addicts who get holed up in a bar, and there's this group of like, I'd say kind of Southern hicks that are after them, and they're demanding that they hand over one of the specific guys that's in the bar, or they're going to start killing people. And they're like scared of this person for some reason, and they say that they have to put him down. We don't know the context as to why. And there's a whole fucking hour of them doing overly dramatic, like, backstories to all the characters in the bar, I guess, so that you feel for them for the rest of the story. And I was like just bored out of my mind. There was nothing good going on. Felissa Rose is in this. She plays a bartender, and I mean, I love Felissa Rose. She's one of the sweetest, nicest people met as a celebrity, but her performances are not exactly top tier. Thankfully, spoiler, she does get off pretty quickly, and the gore was surprisingly pretty good for the few scenes that we got. And I was really just ready to dismiss this as a maybe half star, maybe 1 star. I'm not sure, depending how they ended it. But in the last half hour, there's something that happens, and I won't spoil that completely turns this fucking movie around. They introduce another element to it, like something more horror and a little bit more like kind of supernatural. And all of a sudden, the gore is turned up to fucking 11. It gets absolutely crazy. There are a ton of great kills, blood flying everywhere, good creature effects. And I was like, holy shit. Like, if you had given this the whole movie, or at least more of the movie, this could have been something, to watch out for. But you spend that whole first hour doing nothing and just having overly dramatic backstories to people that ultimately don't really matter to the story. It's weird, but for that half hour, I think it raised my score quite a bit. So I ended up getting a 2.5 out of 5. Not a great score, nothing that would come close to being in my top of the year. But that last half hour made it at least something that I'm happy I watched. Nothing I'd go out of my way to recommend because it takes so long to get there, but it was a cool half hour, and I appreciate for that. So that's Craving over on Tubi.
All right, I don't have any movies, but I still been playing Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Xbox, and it's a fucking hoot. Actually, playing as Leatherface is cool and all, and it's so satisfying to run around the chainsaw. But I like Cook, man. He's a goofy little bastard. He has this like broken broom handle, and he hops around when he's running. But man, I wiped the whole fucking survivors with him the other day, and I was like, man, I fucking love this guy. So I highly recommend you guys play TCM because it does take that old tiring method of us versus them, 4 players versus 3 players, whatever it is. But I think it's definitely an upgrade from all the other films or not films, games so far.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it as well. I play as the hitchhiker when I usually play as the villains. Sometimes Leatherface, because if you use Leatherface 10 times and then 20 times, you get different costumes for him. At 10 times in particular, you get the costume for part 2, which I think is fucking awesome. So I'm trying to use him more just to get that. But there's something about the hitchhiker that just makes me laugh. He runs like he has a fucking shit in his pants. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so fucking funny, and it's just amusing as you're kind of going through this whole adventure. And it's a fun game. I personally probably won't play it when I don't have people that I know, but we know so many people that play it now because a lot of people in our Discord do play it, and we get these game nights going. So if there's a reason to join our Discord, that's definitely one of them. We have so much fun organizing those game nights and playing through games like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Right now, we're going to be eating good in this department because we had Friday the 13th, which of course is being decommissioned next year. But as a replacement, I mean, now we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was free on Game Pass, so that is a big advantage. Hopefully, one day Evil Dead kind of joins that group as well. There's Killer Clowns from Outer Space coming out at some point this year, I believe, still. So
Is that Game Pass too? Do you know?
they haven't announced it.
I
They're
hope so.
actually talking about it at Gamescom, which is airing right when we're recording right now. So apparently they're going to have news about that. If it's on Game Pass, we'll all play it. If it's not, we probably won't.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Right.
the way it is. It's I think the free to play model for this type of game is smarter. Just have people pay for cosmetic stuff, and people will. They're big enough horror fans that they will pay for the cosmetic stuff. Like, let you earn a lot of stuff too, so you want to keep playing, but put some stuff behind a paywall and keep it free.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. And I'm a person that very, very rarely will buy something in game that's cosmetic. But I think I definitely would if they did some cool DLC like remake stuff or new map stuff like that. Well, actually, I hate it when they do new maps and then they tie it to the
Yeah, they don't usually
multiplayer
do
network.
maps though, because like often they don't do maps because then people don't play it, right? Because you
Right.
need everyone to have that map. Or at least let it do like the golf game we play on VR, where if one
True.
person owns the map, then they can play, but that person has to be there, right? So
Yeah.
maybe that way it would be a good way as well. But
Could be.
yeah,
But yeah, loving it.
like I'll never pay for a cosmetic for myself. Like I won't take a single player game and buy a cosmetic because who cares? But when I'm playing with a bunch of friends and stuff, sometimes you just want to have that different cosmetic and
Yeah.
almost like show off in a weird way, you know? Like,
Yeah.
so I would probably put down a little bit of money just to have some cool looking version of Leatherface or some of the other characters.
I mean, that's what, not to go on off too big of a tangent, but that's what I did with Mortal Kombat when they had the DLC for like Leatherface and Terminator and Rambo. I'm like, you wait for Xbox to put DLC on sale for like $1.99, snatch them up, and then you have a lot of time playing. I always use like the formula too. Like people complain like, oh, Call of Duty $70 or Game Pass is $15. Like, all right, well, how much hours did you put into that game? If your total spend is $30 and you put 100 hours in there, like do the
Right.
math. That's like fucking easy,
Mm-hmm.
easy replayability and repay yourself essentially. But
Yep.
all right, so let's get on the 28 Days Later, directed by Danny Boyle, like I said earlier. Straight from the Blu-ray, we have director Danny Boyle's groundbreaking take on zombie horror has been hailed as the most frightening film since The Exorcist. I feel like every fucking movie says that.
A lot, like a lot of movies, especially The Exorcist for some reason. There's
Yeah.
something about that movie that people always want to compare to.
When a deadly rage virus transforms the world around them into a seemingly desolate wasteland, a handful of determined survivors attempt to salvage a future, unaware that the worst is yet to come. So, okay, is it Cillian or Killian? I think we keep
I
freaking
think it's
talking about this.
Killian.
All right, Killian Murphy stars as Jim, a bicycle courier in London, England. And we start off with his character. Well, sorry, actually, before that, we have an opening scene where some ecological activists, you can call them, break into a research lab where chimpanzees are being held and they're being experimented on, and it looks at face value like they're being tortured. So they go in there to release them, which we can talk about what their fucking end game is later. But you don't fucking escort chimps around London. That's not how it works. But they break him out, and a doctor's like, "Please don't do this. They're infected." And like, "Infected with what?" And he's like, "Rage." And they're like, "Fuck you." And they release him anyway. Monkeys attack, and then it spreads the rage virus, which is spread through blood, saliva, and the zombie-like figures. They're not undead, but zombie enough. Make an effort to, you know, like blow their blood into your face so it infects you in a matter of seconds, and then you spread the virus, so on and so on. Cut forward to 28 days later, title card, and we have Jim, who wakes up in a bed in a hospital, completely nude, hooked up to IV fluid and all that stuff. And we learn that he had an injury where he was knocked out on his bike, and all he remembers is being hit by a car and then waking up in the fucking hospital ward, being left alone. So we follow him for a little bit as he explores London looking for people. And eventually he meets up with two survivors that tell him, "Hey, the fucking world ended. This is it. Everyone's fucking dead." And so on. And he links up with them, and eventually they go on adventures together. And I'll leave it at that. Watched this on, I had the VHS tape when I was younger, and I watched the shit out of this movie. I still get the same feelings I did when I watched it then. I really like it. I love it. In fact, there are some like minor issues I have with it, and tonally, Danny Boyle seems to do the same kind of thing where he has a movie for like three-fourths, like the same style, and then he flips. Like in the movie Sunshine, it's like all sci-fi and then a slasher movie. But other than that, I absolutely love this film. What about you?
Yeah, this is a movie that I also watched like since early on. I saw in theaters when it first came out. I bought it on DVD when it first came out on media, and it's one I always appreciated. This is, I think, the first time I ever saw fast zombies. I don't remember. I know they're not technically zombies; they're infected, but I don't remember seeing
Infected with what?
rage. Yeah, I don't remember seeing like fast zombies before this. So this has started kind of a new rage, and at the time, it was exciting because it was something different, right? We'd only seen kind of slow moving zombies up until this
It's
point.
exciting, but I remember people being pissed
Oh yeah,
that,
absolutely.
that
Yeah,
zombies weren't slow shambling.
exactly. And then people then be like, no, they're not zombies, they're infected. You know, it's only until like Dawn of the Dead later that they're actually zombies and they're fast. So yeah, so that was really cool. And I really like the film. I do have some issues with it, which brings the score down. Particularly, I think the first half is much stronger than the second half because I don't love what they decided to focus on for the second half of the movie. But that first half is so goddamn good. There are some genuinely scary scenes in this. There's one in particular that just freaks me out for some reason. There's a lot of really cool stuff that they do. I love zombie films in general. I really love when it's like a small group just going through different places. That's why I adored the first Walking Dead season. Like, I love the whole Walking Dead series, but the first season in particular, because like that first episode, it's basically just Rick going down, into Atlanta by himself and meeting up with like just a couple people. I like that about this as well. You really get to know those people. You form like a bond to those people, and if any of them die, you actually feel bad about it, because the impact that it has on the other survivors, and unfortunately they lose some of that second half of the film, but overall it's still a fun film that I like to revisit from time to time. And I was planning to revisit at some point anyway, because apparently they're going to make the third and final installment of this series 28 months later. But for now, I'm still happy I got to finally watch it, because we do mention it quite a bit on the show as well. Like, over time, it's just one of those movies that comes back up for whatever reason.
Yeah. So just to go back to the beginning, I guess it's what are these guys planning to do? Because chimpanzees are notoriously violent, and they're kept in these awful situations. Like, do you think they're gonna come hug you and hold your hand? Like, so ill advised, them breaking up the chimps. They kind of deserved it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's like any of the activist logistic. Like, you have this goal in mind to save whatever you're saving or do whatever you're doing, but then you never think out the like full logistics of what you're doing. You just have this one-sided goal in mind. Like in this, it was save the chimps without thinking of the consequences of saving the chimps. Like, is there a reason why they're being caged? They just assume the worst, but yeah, it's in this case it ended up killing the world, right? So, or at least the UK.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Do you think these chimpanzees developed a virus themselves, or it was a government thing and that was a lab that infected them? What are your thoughts?
It could be a variety of things, right? It could be that the government injected this as a counter, like either a weapon that they want to use for certain people, or it's a failed experiment, like they actually wanted to enhance people, but it turns out that they got rage instead. I don't know. It's tough to say. There's a movie I watched recently where that happened, where they infected someone and everyone got rage except this one guy, and it really like infuriated. Oh, it was Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3. So it like pissed off the creator that he couldn't figure out the formula to not have people have rage. So maybe it was a situation like that. But it could also be as simple as a disease, like that they happened to quarantine and they happened to try to figure out, and they didn't in time, right? They got kind of killed before figuring it out.
Yeah, and I think it's a positive that we don't dive into that, and that the story's about Jim and not Jim saving the world, which is like a lot of these movies do. Like, they'll have a character that doesn't need to be a savior, and then they make him the savior. So it's nice to just have a normal person run around. Yeah, you mentioned when we were talking about it online, it's like whenever you have these hellscapes of like no one around, you constantly looking for the car
Oh
that
my
ran the
God, yeah.
barricade. Who'd you spot
So
that was
yeah,
walking around?
of course you're like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme from the Hollywood movie where he's like pointing at the screen.
Oh yeah,
And because you become, you start focusing on it. It's like when you see a dead body in a movie, I always look to see if it's like gonna blink or it's breathing or whatever the case may be. I don't know, it's just something that I always look out for. And so he's in London, which is impressive in itself that they filmed it practically, and the logistics behind that is actually pretty fucking crazy when you think about it. But they do a really good job, and you see these actually like popular places in London absolutely empty. But there's one shot, of course, there's one shot where you could see up a street. It's like a hill that goes up, and on that hill there's a dude just like casually walking up the hill as if he went shopping that morning, and he's supposed to be completely empty in that city. So yeah, you're gonna have mistakes, it's tough, but they almost had it because all the other scenes seemed pretty clear, but that one dude ruined the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, and I think if this movie was made today, they just would have erased them.
CGI did that, yeah.
Yeah.
But they could have missed it too. I mean, we
True.
also live in an age where Game of Thrones, one of the most watched TV shows ever, had a fucking Starbucks cup in a shot in the final season. So people will miss it. You get tunnel vision when you work on certain projects, and even though 100 people looked at it, no one notices some of those details.
Yeah, the same typo gets through every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Jim eventually gets to a church, which is one of my favorite scenes because it's just so off-putting. He goes to like the church is a scene of mass suicide, and there's a bunch of fucking bodies in there, and he's just like, "Hello." And the two or three zombies that react to him, in my opinion, are just fucking terrifying, man. Like they have this blank stare. I'm like, fuck, every time.
Yeah, that's actually a scene I was referring to. There's something about the way they look, which is just terrifying. Like it just, I don't know what it is.
They're
It's
like
so
excited to
creepy.
see him.
Yeah, but like they like pause, like it's
Yeah.
like a mental game of who's going to attack first. Are they bad? Are they good? Because there's a bunch of bodies in the church. There's something. Yeah, it was super fucking effective, and I really like that scene.
Heck yeah. And he hits the preacher.
Yeah,
And then it kind of leads to a point that I'm like, really? So Jim's running after knocking out a preacher because he was infected, and then these two, Selena and Mark, show up, launching fucking Molotov cocktails, and then they blow up a fucking gas station just to kill like three zombies. I'm like, is this necessary? Burn down all of London?
yeah, no kidding. It was like super unnecessary.
But yeah, what do you think about Jim's parents? Eventually, they make it to his house because he insists on finding them, and we find them.
I like that they did that because that's what would really happen in real life. You know, it's the same reason when I play a video game like Flight Simulator, for example, which uses real world maps. The very fucking first thing I did was fly over my house. And the same thing when I got VR for the first time and I got Google Maps on VR. You know, I'm not going to the fucking Vatican or the Eiffel Tower. No, I'm gonna go check out what my street looks
You're
like
going
in
outside.
VR. Yeah. It's just that's natural to want to go see, especially that he had loved ones and he wanted to know what happened, right? They did the same thing in The Walking Dead again. And I like that he went back home and that you saw his parents there and it was sad. And you could see him walking around the house and just looking at the different memories, you know, things on them in the cupboards that make him think of his mom's cooking and pictures on the fridge. You know, it just that was a real moment, and I appreciate that they did that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate they do that scene because it brings some layers of emotions to it too, especially when Jim, the mother's holding the picture of him as a baby or a young boy, and on the back it says, "Hey, we left you asleep, and now we're gonna be sleeping with you." So they kill themselves to be with him, and he's still here. It's like, gosh, damn, like the mind fuck of the whole thing, man. Like I don't know what you would do, how you would process it, but one thing I had a question about is where would you go first? I know we just talked about the parents and going home to see where everyone is, but like you're out of the hospital bed, no one's in the hospital. Personally, I would go to a police station first. What about you?
It's tough to say because if the city's empty, I don't know if I'd go to a police station first because that it would seem almost like pointless at that point. You know, it's I don't know, like maybe because I've watched too many zombie movies and I've read the survival guide, so I know that police stations are not the first place you should be going.
Amazing book.
Yeah, absolutely amazing book by Max Brooks. No, I probably would go home. You know, I'd be so curious as to what happened to my family. It's a resource that can explain to me what happened if they're still there. I have my stuff which I can pack up and use for survival or whatever. So that yeah, I think it's realistic that he would go or at least want to go home first. What about you?
No, fair enough. I see that point, and it's always something you have to remember too is zombies in every zombie movie except like spoofs don't exist in that universe, so they don't know like what they're dealing with.
It's weird, eh? Like it's
Yeah,
very rare that they acknowledge the fact that zombies are a thing in media.
like
Like,
Zombieland,
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's a spoof.
right.
And then
No,
that one with Kylo Ren spoof, and Bill Murray.
yeah, absolutely. Dead don't die.
Yeah, but regular series films, I don't think so.
No, it's like not a
Yeah.
thing. And in vampires they do for some reason. All the vampire movies, like
Yeah.
that's not real. That's just movies that make the garlic
Movies
or the
lied.
yeah, exactly. But never in zombies.
Yeah, it's strange, but yeah, if I'd probably go to police station or get a car, but I know it's a little bit different. Like here in America, like there's fucking cars everywhere, and like a downtown metropolis like that, not necessarily the same thing. We did go to a car, and the alarm went off and scared him. So,
Yeah, no, exactly. It's
um,
actually so that's actually a point I wanted to ask you about. Is it unrealistic that there are no cars around? Especially
I
like downtown London. I feel like if an apocalypse happened, everyone would go to their car and try to escape. And you see it in all the other zombie stuff. There's cars
Yeah.
fucking everywhere, whereas there it's completely empty. And I felt, and he's even driving down like later with the family down a highway with like basically no obstacles other than that one tunnel. That was a little bit unrealistic to me.
No, I agree. That's the first thing most people would do is probably drive to the countryside. And even when we get to the countryside, there's not a lot going on. Yeah, they probably should have had more vehicles. It doesn't, when Rick's walking to Atlanta, the opposite way is just burned
It's
out cars.
absolutely like full of cars, whereas no
Yeah.
one's going into Atlanta, which makes sense.
It's a cool
right?
ass fucking scene. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
How do you feel about Selena and Mark, specifically Selena? Because I don't think Mark deserved to get killed, man.
I agree. Yeah, yeah, he didn't deserve to get killed, but at the same time, he got infected, right? So,
Was he infected though?
Yeah.
I saw that more of a defensive wound from her machete or his knife.
And this is something we're going to talk about a lot. In the rules of this like whole thing, with all the blood that was like being sprayed around, the fact that he had a giant cut is almost for sure that he got infected. Which at the same time, Cillian Murphy got blood in his face, and
They hacked that zombie right over
yeah,
him.
exactly. And it somehow like not a droplet went into his eye or his mouth. Like fuck off. There's no fucking way. And
Yeah.
that's a big plot point issue that comes to
It's a
play
little loose.
later.
It's a little
Yeah.
loose.
But in his case, he had a big gash, so I think the blood would have mixed in.
Yeah, I mean, going to another zombie movie, World War Z, Brad Pitt knows the count and he counts, and then
Right.
okay, you're fine. Which is a cool scene in that movie. That's kind of a wreck, but still fun, which we will cover eventually.
Yeah, we're gonna do all
I-
the zombie movies, like all
Oh,
the
yeah,
big zombie movies at some
That's
point.
our go-to when Joe's gone. Is we'll do a zombie
Exactly.
movie. Yeah, so I personally thought Mark got killed and he wasn't infected, and Selena was a little hard ass the whole time. But man, that leads us to introduce to fucking big ass kicking. What's his face? Gleason, the
Yeah,
dad,
Brendan Gleeson.
Brendan Gleeson, who's just like a larger than life figure, dude. Whenever you see him, I just want to give him a hug. He seems like a cool guy.
Yeah,
go to this,
even when he's an asshole, like in Harry
Yeah.
Potter. Well, he's kind of a goofy asshole in Harry Potter.
He's got that
I guess.
wonky eye in Harry Potter.
Yeah, right.
But he's in Gangs of New York, right? As like
Yep.
a rival guy that gets shafted.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they come across like a high rise that has like a light saying SOS on their apartment, and they or their flat in England, and they go up there, and then they're introduced to what's his name, Frank, in fucking riot gear and just destroying zombies. And then he has his daughter, and they realize that they got to get out of the city because there's no rain, which is a big damn it. We should have waited in the apartment because there's a shit ton of rain
Right.
later.
Exactly. It's fucking
But-
like, come on, London. Are you telling me that it's not gonna rain at some point? Like,
Seriously, you can wait. The fish can fucking not drink a bunch of water for a while.
right.
But Frank, his daughter, she's like 14 or something. Jim and Selena, they all get in a taxi cab, and their plan is to go out to the countryside. And there's this military broadcast saying they have the answer to the infection. We'll protect you. Blah blah blah. Come find us. So they make their way over there, which gets to one of my worst or least favorite scenes. I'm sure you can guess which one it is.
I talk. You're skipping the tunnel. There's nothing you want.
No,
to talk
I'm going to
about
the tunnel when
Okay,
there's a
you're going to the
perfectly good there's a perfectly erected ramp.
Oh
for
yeah,
this-
well that's
This stupid fucking taxi to drive over like a billion cars.
yeah, that was so fucking dumb.
Awful.
It made absolutely no sense that car could go through that tunnel unscathed like the way it was, or a little bit. You know, there's just like minor
No
issues.
car, unless you're a monster truck, is
Right.
getting onto another car. I don't care what you're doing. That was
right.
find a different way. I hated that scene. But what scene? What comes after this? They get to what?
Once they get to the actual like military post, but would you before we get there, would you stay out in the open in a situation like this? Because they sleep
No.
outside, and they even take drugs to fall asleep. Are you fucking kidding me? In that situation, not a fucking chance.
They don't have the zombie survival
guide.
guide, Steve.
That's right. Yeah, it makes no sense. It's like a double whammy. A, don't sleep outside, and B, don't fucking take drugs. It's going to keep you asleep.
And a little fire.
Right? Oh yeah, it's like might as well peel a goddamn beacon. It reminds me of a scene in, I know I keep referring to The Walking Dead, but in Fear the Walking Dead in the first season, one of the guys does the same fucking move. He goes into a wide open building, builds a giant fire, and sleeps in the building. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how do you survive? I would always be sleeping in closets. something that I could absolutely barricade and that people wouldn't know I'm in there. It makes no sense. There must be a ton of empty houses around. Why outside?
I'm no, I 100% agree with you. That's so stupid, so dangerous. And I know Frank's watching, keeping watch, but these dudes are all drugged out, like you said. Like they're worthless. But I have a question. So when they stop to get gas and Jim wanders into a diner, there's food that's like rotting, like people are sitting there eating. How did they die? Did they kill themselves while eating at the diner? Like that kind of
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I question that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually don't know. Just one of those movie rules, I
Movie
guess.
thing.
Maybe they made it in there somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. Because the zombies don't kill their victims.
No.
They turn them.
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe the military sprayed them all.
Yeah,
in fear. I don't know.
yeah. There's a bunch of stories that could say. I'm just glad they didn't try to start that car with vomited alcohol and piss. So,
Oh gosh. I saw this on TV once.
yeah, which is a reference to the movie Gamer. If people don't get that particular reference, it's one of those ridiculous plot points in there. If you have a grocery store that you can hit up, it's been a month, mind you, so not everything is fair game. What would you be picking up for your trip? You have one last kind of carload to break from a grocery store, so you're not getting weapons or shit like that. You're getting whatever they have there. What would you pick up?
Well, definitely not endless supplies of candy and chips like they were doing.
Right.
But honestly, I would stay in that grocery store. Like
Yeah.
it is fully stocked. There's one entrance that we saw. You can
Which
barricade
also
it.
doesn't make sense. If we learn anything from zombie apocalypses, is everyone goes for. I mean, fucking in real life, everyone went for the grocery stores and toilet paper, and
Yeah.
we're all home without zombies attacking us. So
That's a great point because as I say, like we have a real life example of nowhere near this level of severity, and people cleaned out fucking supermarkets at one point. There's like no chicken, no fucking bread. And this one
so you can
was
watch
left fine.
Netflix at home for a week. It's like
Yeah. So that was stupid, but I would have fucking just stayed there. But I get he's a dad and he wants to get his daughter to military safety because you think the military and police are going to protect you, but people that watch movies know that's not the truth. But they don't know that because it's not a zombie movie to them. But yeah, eventually they get to the checkpoint and it's just a fucking wasteland. There's military bodies. There's no one there. Frank is pissed. He's distraught. They're like, hey, we need to go, Frank. He's like, go fucking where? Like, this is all we came here for. And in a scene that is really cool, but also is like, nah, really? He and blood from a body drops down into his eyeball and he fucking turns. And I'm bummed about it.
Yeah, I'm bummed about it because I love that character. I love that actor. And also, that one infection kind of opens up a huge hole in the story, which is if one droplet gets you automatically get infected, which people get sprayed by them, and there's no way that they wouldn't have been affected later on in the movie, earlier in the movie. So they should have. Why not just make it a little bit more of a clear infection, like he got cut somehow on a body or something, like anything other than that, because now you're making it where like us, well, when we're looking at dead bodies, see if they're breathing, and we're looking at the empty area if there's anyone walking around. Now we're looking if there's even so much as one droplet of blood that's near the nose, the eyes, the mouth, we're like, well, they fucked up, so yeah, I didn't like that whole thing.
I agree, and it looks really cool.
It does.
But I think it looks cooler when the zombie is just vomiting a downpour of blood into the victims' faces. Like that is a really cool effect. So I think they should have done that. Like because come on, man. Like you don't get HIV from a fucking drop of blood in your mouth. I don't think, at least. Don't quote me on that.
I don't think so either.
But it's like make it a little bit harder because, like you said, everybody should be infected. Every single person, unless you're immune, which they don't touch upon in this. So
now, counterpoint here, and thank you to their sponsor for this. Everyone who doesn't get affected in this drank like Pepsi or a Pepsi product, whether it's 7-Up, Pepsi, or the mango juice.
Ate chocolate.
Is Pepsi the cure in the 28 Days universe?
Find out more in 28 months later.
Yeah, because they like straight up show full Pepsi cans being consumed multiple times in the movie, or at least one of the Pepsi products. So
Yeah, I can just imagine how gross that was for Jim that hadn't drank water for how knows long. The
mhm.
chug of lukewarm Pepsi.
Right? It's been
Like,
sitting there for a
ugh,
month. Yeah.
God, no wonder why he has a fucking headache. He's drinking Pepsi constantly. Um, yeah, but which leads to something else. And I know why the military was hiding, but like they randomly show up. They could have showed up
Yeah, right.
5 minutes earlier,
Yeah.
but no, they don't. And they don't show up until Frank turns and they shoot his ass.
I will say that I love the way that they turn, how he's like coherent, telling his daughter to get away, and slowly you could see his transformation. Well, not too slowly. I mean, it's still pretty quick, but you see that transformation, that like switch from human to zombie. It's
Oh
something
yeah.
I think they eventually perfected in a lot of the Korean zombie films that we saw, like Train to Busan, like All of Us Are Dead, the TV show, which are both, I mean, absolute top tier zombie properties. So I really liked his transformation, and you see him because he's talking how he went from coherent to infected, and how quickly it was. It's cool.
Absolutely. Very effective scene. Plus, I mean, we at that point he's probably everyone's favorite character. And you're like, oh man, he's
Yeah,
gone.
which goes back to what I was saying before. That's why I like the small groups, because we, in the span of what, 40 minutes, we really got to know those four and cared for those four. So his death affects us because we like him, but it also affects us because we know what he meant to the group. I mean, even Killian fucking called him dad the scene before, you know. It was a good one.
I was just gonna mention that was a very it's like a scene that comes and goes, but when they're sleeping and all knocked out, Jim has a bad dream and Frank wakes him up and say, hey man, you had a bad dream. He's like, thanks, Dad. And Frank's reaction is just like one of like paternal love for Jim, and it's
Yeah,
sweet. It's a
exactly.
sweet scene.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, soldiers show up, shoot Frank, and then take them to this like kind of high society mansion that they've acquired, commandeered, that they put barbed wire and guns around and shit. But if you listen closely and once you watch the movie once, you get the context. Is that like, hey, we're coming back, two females, one male. Repeat, two females, one male. And like, cool. Which you think normal? They would normally do that until
Right.
you understand why they're all excited about it.
Mhm.
We meet the soldiers, about a group of 10 dudes, 9 or 10 dudes, trying to make the best of the situation. At face value, they seem pretty legit. And I mean, obviously, we know something's amiss, but right away, you don't, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that comes from the trust that, you know, police officers, the military, you know, any type of authority figure will always be there to protect you. You know, and that might not be the case. So they kind of play on that. And the main guy, and I forget what his name is. You see him in a lot of movies.
Yeah, the major.
Um, yeah, the major. He's very good to them for a long time, and he's also good to his people. Now you know that we're watching a horror film, we're not watching a fucking comedy or drama film, that he's going to turn to be out to be a piece of shit. But you're trying to figure out what his angle is. Is he a cannibal? Is he like, what's his, you know, why is he eventually going to turn? And I love that about horror movies. I'm always like, okay, what's this guy's deal going to be? You know, like what's he hiding? And yeah, it was fun to find out.
Yeah, and shortly after, we learn that the major promised his men women, essentially. He found one of his guys to kill himself because, like, hey, like, even if we outlast the infected and we're able to go out in the world again, there's 9 men. How do we restart society? Even if that is the reason, which I don't know if it is, probably not, but that he promised that they will find women and that they can have them essentially. And Jim is a little roadblock in that because he's a guy and he's protecting his girls. And it's not like, hey, do you want to date me? It's like, no, you're gonna get fucking dressed in this fancy dress and we're gonna rape both of you. And it's like, fuck, man. Then it loses steam for me personally at this point.
Me too. Once the military aspect gets introduced and it kind of calms down from the initial, like, okay, they found them, it kind of turns into a different movie right up until the very end of it. And it does slow down considerably. And I don't like the angle that they went with. I kind of just wish they had kept up with the group and maybe picking up, you know, strays here and there, but just getting into different little situations that you know, like they had, you know, I liked seeing them just travel the world and, or at least the countryside, and getting into these little situations and moral conundrums and stuff like that. And the military stuff was just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen this before, you know, the kind of squirmy rapist soldiers or rapist, you know, clan or cult or whatever it's going to be in this film. So that's too bad.
I agree, and I think the better film, even though I love this film, is that the soldiers are legit. Maybe you have one or two that are pieces of shit, and that can still play out the way it plays out, where they want to have them, you know, they want to assault them, and the women and Jim turn the table on them. I think that's effective too, still. But having the military thing overrun, like this is like their hope, their savior, whatever, and then even the military can't stop them with their automatic weapons. I think that's the better film, opposed to one soldier stands up for them, the sergeant, and they take Jim and the sergeant out to execute them, but Jim gets away, and it essentially turns into a fucking slasher movie where Jim is like a Jason Voorhees taking out every member of the military with the help of a zombie that the military was keeping captive to study him. I There's some cool visuals in that, and the rain coming down and the fighting is really cool, but I just don't. I don't feel it.
Yeah, it's where it stopped separating itself from the pack. You know, it became just kind of a standard horror, you know, story. And it's too bad, because up until this point, it had been very unique, especially at that time. You know, now we've seen stuff like it, but at that time, it was a very unique story. And this whole thing, you know, and they don't introduce some of the things well enough. I think Mailer, who's the zombie that they're keeping, I would have liked to know more about him. Like, you know, and maybe have some kind of connection that's deeper than just one of the soldiers that they kept around. There are things that they could have done. I think the major should have been a good guy throughout, and his boys, just like his men, were the ones that were kind of getting, you know, bad, and they're the ones who are wanting the women. He just was trying to keep the peace and trying to survive. I don't know. I just feel that the way they went was too standard.
I agree, and it's sad too because the major truly does care about his men, but he has good intentions that he takes the wrong way. And I agree, that should have been something. Even the cook, like the nerdy cook guy, is a likable character, but he participates too. He's just because you allow something to happen and don't stand up for him doesn't mean you're in the right. You got to stand up for injustice like that. But I
Yeah,
mean, shoot.
I feel like it's the same thing with one of the characters in what's that other fucking rape movie, that revenge movie they were talking
Oh,
about.
is it I Spit on Your Grave? Where
Yeah,
the
I
guy
found a great. That's right.
doesn't. Oh,
But he's
the
kind
movie
of,
Revenge has that too, where he doesn't participate, but he lets it happen.
but exactly right,
Yeah.
and it's kind of the same way in this. And I don't know. I just he should have tried to stop it. He should have been one of the good guys, at least to have
Yeah.
one of them being a good guy to show. Not all military people are dicks. You know, there are
Yeah.
good ones who are actually there to do good. So
Yeah, and that's probably reality too would have been they probably would have executed the dude that was trying to perpetrate this. And I know there's been atrocities throughout every military in history, so there's not one answer for everybody. But yeah, it's still fucking weird.
what do you think of Killian as a like fucking killer at the end? Like, where did that come from? And that he's basically an unstoppable machine that kills pretty much
I
the majority of the military.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It like I said, it looked cool. Like there's some really effective shots and gore and everything, but I'm like, even when he's gouging out the worst of the guy's eyes, I'm like, fuck, relax. Like he's
Yeah,
dead.
it's because they didn't set that up at all. You
No, he
know,
wasn't badass ever.
yeah, if he had talked about maybe being military earlier in his life, or had some kind of backstory that justified why he's actually a killing machine, but just wasn't, like doing that stuff, maybe. But he's a fucking like delivery boy. You know, he's like
He's Fry. Yeah.
there's no reason for him to all of a sudden turn into Rambo. You know,
Yeah.
it was kind of an odd choice.
They even could have had him do something against some zombies. Like he killed a zombie kid. But other than that, he
Yeah.
didn't do shit. Like they should have had him go on a rampage too, and even Frank showed him a couple tricks or something, something to establish that he can take off trained military guys. You know. But I love the guy that doesn't have any fucking bullets left, and he's hiding under the bed,
Yeah, you're right.
dumbass. And then the cook, he hides in the cupboard and he gets stabbed by Jim. But here's probably my least favorite aspect of this film. Jim gets shot and then it cuts to like a happy ending, which I do
Yeah,
not
yeah.
fucking like. I don't like it.
Yeah, he got shot with all that blood flying around, and you don't see what happened. It just it literally, like you said, cuts, and it's what, another 28 days later, I think, from
Yep.
that point on, and yeah, he's fine, happily,
He's good.
happily ever after. The end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's smashing that chick, and they're gonna be rescued.
yeah. It's
But it's
so
like
so
it's
weird.
a freeze. Oh, that whole sequence, he
Okay,
gets shot, and then the freeze frame of them crashing the car. That's the worst aspect of this film.
okay. So that's something I want to kind of end on, at least on my end. The aesthetic of this film. Overall, I really liked it, but there's some really weird shots out of nowhere that he doesn't do often enough to be like a established aesthetic for this movie, but he does it once in a while that makes it kind of weird. There's this scene where they're like in a field and the flowers almost look painted.
Yeah, weird.
But then you also have a shot where you see like a cityscape, but in the like diagonal corner of it, you see like one of the characters' eyes. Like it was done in a way that made me think, fuck, I think something's wrong with my TV. Not something that, oh, that's
Like
aesthetically
a VHS
pleasing.
tape. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like almost like it was two scenes superimposed onto each other, and there was something fucked up with my television or my Blu-ray or something. It just didn't look good. And had he kept that aesthetic, like almost like a painting, then maybe. But he only does it that one time, and he only does that one shot that one time, and the freeze frame that one time. So what the fuck was happening? Like I don't understand what the hell he was doing with that.
Beats me. I have no idea. And it's so out of place, especially at the ending where they freeze frame. And I guess I would have been just as mad if the credits started rolling after the freeze frame.
Right.
But like I love Jim, but I think he should have died. I think he should have
It
died.
should
in
have
that
been
rampage.
sacrifice. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. If you really want to bring him back 28 days later, you have the two people at a picnic and everything, and then you see a fucking infected Jim, like, and
Like
they get
Ed
sad.
from Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, no, but they're not keeping him. They like have to put him down. It's
Okay,
like
I like it. Or a
yeah,
grave. They're eating next to his grave or something.
yeah, or something. Just.
Yeah.
But I agree. He should have died.
Yeah.
But I guess they wanted him for sequels.
Which he never did.
Well,
Maybe
he apparently yeah, he might be in 20 months later.
Fuck yeah.
Especially now with that fucking Oppenheimer, as like he's on a kind of top of his career, right?
That'd be really cool.
Mhm.
But yeah, the final scene, Jim wakes up, he's perfectly fine, so there's no stakes with that. And then they're living in the little cottage, no security features, nothing. Come on, let's go back to The Walking Dead. Let's put a line with some fucking jingling things. At least,
Anything. In
Dig a
The
hole.
Walking Dead, they kind of did this with the farmhouse in season 2, and it got overrun. And they did not make that fucking mistake again. They always had some kind of barrier. Even like you said, it's just cans on a fucking rope. At least it warns him. It gives him a warning to get up and not be on drugs and sleep through fucking people packing your entire camp without
and getting in the car.
Yeah.
Driving.
Oh yeah. These people needed that book. Like this, seriously.
Yeah.
Their survival skills were terrible.
Yeah, and then a fighter jet flies over, which I believe it's like Norwegian or something like that. And they say hello with they wrote it out in fucking bed sheets. Hello. And then the movie ends.
Yep, that's it.
That's it. 3/4 of the movie, 2/3 of the movie, whatever, excellent. The final bit definitely a drop down, but I still love it. And you want to talk about that deleted scene that I'm glad they deleted?
Yeah, because we mentioned it a lot over the course of our podcast. We have to mention on the episode. It's like super important.
So what happens with it?
From memory, because I didn't rewatch it. I meant to, and I just completely forgot about it. But the entire military thing was not supposed to be part of the original film. Instead, it was going to be essentially them trying to figure out a cure for the virus, which in this idea that they had
silly.
Was that you were essentially replacing someone's blood with new blood that isn't affected, and that would save you. But like we established in this film, if one fucking droplet of blood infects you, there's no way in hell that they can take out all the infected blood from your body, and then pump you with new blood. That's not how humans work. So it was kind of a dumb idea. But I wish they had gone with the more trying to figure out kind of what to do. But again, I like the small story at the same time. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And then not only that, but there's a storyboard that they didn't shoot where Frank and Jim do the blood transfusion with each other, and Jim becomes infected and Frank becomes fine.
Right. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so stupid. I'm so glad they didn't do that. But yeah, I mean, anything else to add before we rate it?
Not really. No, it's still, a movie that I enjoy, but there are definitely some major issues with it, and that kind of brings it down. Now, it was also a movie for its time, like this was really unique at the time, and I can't reiterate that enough. We have seen a lot of movies like this since, but at that time, there wasn't anything like it. So you have to keep that into consideration as well.
Absolutely. And this kickstarted the genre for zombies.
Yeah, it like brought back zombies, or at least the fast zombies that we had for a long time. So we're thankful for it because it did bring back, and I think The Walking Dead in a lot of ways, because zombies were dead, fucking dead for years and years. Like it just there's nothing good coming out. You had Creepy Kids apparently in the 80s, and you had the Romero stuff, but there was a good period there where they were kind of a mockery, and this movie really brought back that genre to the forefront.
Yep. I'm probably gonna be higher than you are with it. I still love it, and I have it at a 4.5 out of 5, even with the problems.
Yeah, I'm not that far from you. I'm at a 4 out of 5. Despite all of its issues, I still enjoy watching it. I still think it's a really fun movie, and realistically, it's probably more a 3.5 out of 5 for me. But I remember like what it meant at that time. Now it's like I could see someone watching it for the first time not being as enamored with it, but because I saw it kind of really in my movie prime too. This is when I was like in college and doing film school stuff, so it just came out at the right time for me. So I still remember that feeling, and I still dig the hell out of it. So 4 out of 5.
Nice. I look forward to 28 weeks later, revisit, and
Mhm.
28 months later, eventually.
Yeah, I hope that happens. I know
Me too.
Danny Boyle's getting up there in age. Killian Murphy, he said he wanted to do it though, so maybe it would be like a nice, just to revisit, because that was his first role that I've ever seen him in. I don't remember seeing him before this, so
Yeah, me either.
yeah, that's a good one. All right, so thank you everyone for listening to this episode. We had a ton of fun revisiting this movie. Don't forget to follow us on all social media, on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads, all that good stuff. Join our Discord for a bunch of reasons. You get exclusive information about our events. You get to know what's coming up in our episodes. We have great discussions with other like-minded horror fans. And like we said, sometimes we do movie nights, sometimes we do game nights. You never know. And it's a ton of fun to do all those things with people who are like-minded and, just love horror. Don't forget our merch, tpublic.com/horror squad. We got some great t-shirts, new designs. I think we're going to come out at some point this year, so we're really looking forward to that. And next week we are doing my birthday pick, which is Arachnophobia. Arachnophobia is a movie that actually scarred me in a lot of ways, and to this day there are things I do because of that movie, and I'll explain all that in next week's episode. So thank you for listening, and bye.
See ya.